When I was in high school, I was given a French version of the Werner Gunther VHS.
You got that in high school? What was your response to what you saw?
I probably watched it 4 or 5. It was like the first time I watched Pumping Iron. Yeah.
Welcome to the Coachemup podcast. I'm Tim Riley, and there is no Zach Zillner today, but that's actually a good thing. I'm going to tell you why. It's because him and his Longhorns have just advanced to the Sweet 16 to more than likely play Lady Vols. And we all know I'm a Tennessee fan. Zach obviously works as a coach at the University of Texas for women's basketball. So for the next week, we're not going to be on speaking terms. All jokes aside, I hope that they win and seal the deal. So, yeah, we're rooting for Zach. I also, before I introduce our guests, I want to reiterate and re-announce the Coachemup Conference is going to be happening June 13th and June 14th. Current speakers booked right now are Corey Schlesinger, Vernon Griffith, Kelly Matthews. We have Alyssa Olenek and Daniel Bach, and myself, Zach Zillner, Anna Craig. It's going to be a hell of a time. You're going to be able to book that. Go to the link in the description. And, come join us. Come conference with us. All right, I'm done. No, I'm not. One more thing. There's two types of people in this world. There are people who are subscribed and people who aren't, okay? Don't be a non-subscriber. Subscribe to the show. It helps us out a ton. Now that I'm done, the moment we've all been waiting for, I'm super excited to... Dane, what is your last name?
Miller.
I'm super excited to announce. Listen, it's kind of a running joke on the show. I fucking always do this with last names, dude.
I love it. Yeah,
I do it with last names. Dane Miller, otherwise known as Garage Strength Ghostface
D Miller. Yeah.
D Miller.
Yeah, Ghostface Miller.
A man by many names. Yeah. Dane, dude, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, man.
I'm still recovering from our YouTube videos that we filmed, but
holy shit.
I'm doing
Can we
well.
talk about that before? So Dane has a very successful YouTube channel, and it is fucking awesome. So after you've listened to this,
yeah, you got to listen to this the whole way through.
Listen to this the whole way through, then go look at his YouTube vids. Also, we're going to have some YouTube vids together dropping. Yep. But man, we just did like exercises like plyometrics. We did sprints.
Speed, and then a warm-up video.
Oh my God. We basically just did a 2-hour workout.
Yeah.
My feet and legs are in shambles.
And I think the thing people don't understand with YouTube is, one, you do a lot of movements, but then coordinating like how you're trying to teach somebody. Yeah. And then you want to try really hard because when you're on camera, you don't want to look pathetic.
Right. So these single leg hops need to be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to look terrible.
This is going to be on the internet forever.
Yeah, literally.
YouTube's
my children will watch this.
Exactly, dude. It matters. So yeah, we're both in shambles right now. We've already been recording for several hours, but I think that this podcast is going to be pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, it should be good.
So look, man, I know you. I've been following your accounts for some time now. For those of us listening or watching who may not be familiar with you or familiar with your game, can you please put them on game? Tell them a bit about yourself and who you are.
Yeah, so my quick pitch would be, I'm Dane Miller. I'm a strength coach. I own a gym in the middle of a cornfield in southeastern Pennsylvania, literally in the middle of a cornfield. I've coached at every major world championship or the last 2 Olympics since 2017. I've coached every world championship since then in athletics and in weightlifting and track and field and weightlifting.
Jesus.
And the big thing for me is, right now I'm currently in the process of like writing a book. We have a strength training app, but then the other thing outside of the athletes is like trying to get as much content and resources out to as many people as possible who are in the space of strength and conditioning and sports performance. So like I always like to use the example of Dane Miller, I live in Pennsylvania. Dane Miller, who might live in Montana and has access to minimal stuff, could watch our videos and become a state champion in some sport by watching our content. And that's like the overarching theme, the overarching goal, really, of the channel.
Jesus, that's awesome, man. So we were talking earlier. I didn't realize how long you've had your gym. And was the gym kind of like where it all started for you as a trainer and coach? Like what's the origin story of training for you?
So I have like three. So the origin story would be growing up. My dad was an athletic director, and his high school got a new gym when I was in like 8th grade. And so they had all this old equipment from like the 80s. And we have a garage at my house, at my parents' house. And he brought home like 4 pieces of equipment. And we would always go and lift with him at his high school where he worked. And he had a friend that was a gym teacher at my school. So he would let us lift with this guy as well. His name was Mr. Yoder. So we started to train with my dad, and he brought home all the, like, literally like jailhouse incline bench, a jailhouse squat rack that we actually still have at the gym.
Let's go.
And over a long period of time, I just got infatuated with it. Like, he would let me buy Muscle Mag at the grocery store, and I started to get like Powerlifting USA, and then I was in wrestling and throwing and football. And the thing is, in our area, wrestling is like a really big deal. So in the beginning, it was all about like just training for those sports. And then I got to be a pretty good shot putter. And then because of the strength and conditioning, and then over a long period of time, went to college. I actually majored in religious studies, and I was going to go to
Dude.
Yeah. I was literally choosing to go be a professor in religious studies, or I was going to go train with Anatoliy Bondarchuk. And
whoa.
Yeah. And so my choice.
What a screen door.
Yeah.
Like,
I sat there, and I had met with my professors in religious studies. And so like most of my work was in like Confucianism, and then the New Testament, like studying early Christianity.
yeah.
And I met with 2 professors that I was tight with, and I was like, I don't know which I want to do. And they were like, look, you can go train with this guy,
Right.
and sort of treat it like maybe this is, maybe you grow as an athlete and you become really good. And if you don't, you can, and you want to come back and become a religious studies scholar, you could do that. Or if this goes this way, because at the time, like when I would go home during college, I went to Penn State, people would ask me what I was doing in training and stuff like that. I had a guy early on. This is another sort of origin story. When I was in high school, I was given a French version of the Werner Gunther VHS cassette.
No fucking way.
Yeah. And we had a
You
French,
got that in high school?
So we had a teacher translate it for us.
Dude, what?
Yes. And there used to be a website called Can Throws, CAN Throws, and you could get the whole like a PDF. This is like 2001, 2000.
Dude.
So I had all of these, and the guy who gave it to me, his name was Paul Ferenczi. He's a world champion Highland Games guy. And he was, he saw me in 10th grade, and he's like, go home and watch this.
Wait, the first time you popped that, what I'm assuming was a VHS.
Yeah, it was a VHS.
What was your response to what you saw?
I probably watched it 4 or 5. It was like the first time I watched Pumping Iron. Yeah. And my dad knew who Gunther was, but he didn't know. My dad wasn't in throwing, so he didn't know like that this tape even existed.
Right.
And on it, what was crazy is on it there was other clips of throwing and other lifting clips that this guy had added on. So that was like, that had a huge impact on me early. We would do.
Dude, I watch videos of him now, and it has an impact on me. I mean, Jesus, how cool is that?
And so that when I went and I trained with Dr. B, with Bondarchuk, I went there thinking, I want to go there and basically treat it like I was getting a graduate degree.
Yeah.
Let me rewind quick, because even to the point where this stuff with Paul Ferenczi and Gunther and learning about that training, we would apply it constantly, right? And then in 2001 or 2, Jay Schroeder had a DVD, Freak Training, come out. And so we started to play around with Archuleta stuff. Dude, I have videos on my YouTube channel before we actually like made it an official channel from like 2007, 2008 of us doing 5-minute isometric holds with like 135
You're
pounds.
fucking blowing my mind right now.
Yeah.
I did not know any of this lore about you. Real quick, before you continue this story, because this is an awesome story. How weird is it seeing that stuff circulate
It
back
actually
around?
bothers me.
It does.
Yeah, it pisses me off.
Because it circulates around every 2 years. It's like, and then every guy with a floating head on Instagram gets on there and goes, blow, and gives their take.
So what was funny is I just did a podcast with Menno Henselmans, and we talked about there's a recent paper where they're stretching, they like strap these guys into like basically like S&M type setup. Like they're strapping these dudes and they're stretching them like to the point where they were rating it at like a 10 out of 10. And then when it would decrease, they would crank it even more. So they were stretching their pecs.
Right.
And he talks about the hypertrophy gains from it, but it was, I want to say it was either 15 or 60 minutes 4 times a week. And I said, after I got off the podcast, and I had asked him about this. We did Archuleta style of training. So we would get into push-up positions and hold those push-ups for 5 minutes with plates on my back. We'd do it on dip bars. And like guys that I did that with later were weightlifters and stuff that I trained. So we did this for about 3 years. And like,
You've experimented with that stuff for 3 years.
Dude, I had.
If anyone needs a resource on extreme ISOs,
literally,
here's your guy.
Literally. And we would do heart rate training at the time. So we would have these crappy heart rate watches.
Hell yeah.
But for me, it was, we had tinkered around with some of that stuff when we got the Gunther videos.
Yeah.
And when I went to college, and like, it's different now. Like kids are freaks now. But I went to college and I could snatch 245. I was explosive. I was a good thrower. And I remember going in and people being like, how are you good at these lifts? And I was like, dude, we did all this training. And when I told my throws coach what we had done the summer before, I was like, I didn't follow your plan. And he was like, mad,
right?
Well, what did you do? And I showed him the can throws print up. Right. And he was like, oh, you did that? That's crazy. So like, that's sort of like my origin story is rooted in like these interesting points. And then when I went to train with Dr. B, I was like, I want to go train with Bondarchuk. And there was a forum back in the day called The Ring. And you would go on and bullshit and stuff. And this guy, Dylan Armstrong, was like, I want training partners. And it was like, I want to set up like a fight camp for the Olympics for 2008.
Whoa.
And this was in Kamloops, British Columbia. And another sidetrack here, I hitchhiked across Canada.
Dude. Who the fuck are you?
So I hitchhiked across the entire country the year prior. And I had been in the town where he was at. So I was like, yo, I'm going to go there. And I sat down with my parents, and my parents are like the reason I majored in religious studies is because my parents were like, go to school for what you want to learn about. Don't go to school to make money. And so that's why I got into religious studies.
Real quick, before we get into your trip across Canada, I want to circle back to the religious studies thing. What was your draw there? Like what called you, or why were you drawn to that? What was interesting about it? And then what was your takeaway from your time going?
So my dad died and like came back to life. He had this like crazy experience. He got hit head on by a tractor trailer. And this is like, I was 2. And he always told this story about what happened when he died.
What happened? You have to tell us. So
he gets hit. They revived him like twice. They get him to the hospital and he's over top.
He can see himself.
Yeah. And this would have been 86.
Okay.
The Phillies had like just clinched a playoff berth or something like this. Mm-hmm. Something to do with the Phillies. And he came out of the surgery and he told my mom what they were talking about during the surgery. And she told the doctors, and the doctors were like, that happened.
Whoa.
Yeah. So like, and
that just gave me goosebumps on my arms.
yeah. And so for me to hear that growing up, my parents were never like super religious, but they would go to church and stuff. But my dad would always say he never knew if one thing was like the absolute.
Right.
But that's what worked for him.
Right.
And so I was raised, I went to a Lutheran church. I went through all the stuff, that traditional, Protestant setup. And so for me, I was just super interested in rituals and processes and dude, honestly, it has a huge impact on how I train, because I think people are infatuated with rituals. I think there's a natural tendency to have specific ritual things that are actually related to religious things that we do, and we do them in rhythms for a reason, because that's how
it's part of our biology.
Yeah,
it's our makeup.
It's part of how the world is.
Yeah.
And so I went through school, and my biggest takeaway was I really, really liked, so I had a lot of Hebrew studies. I had a lot of early Christianity. I had a really impactful professor who actually passed away when I was in college. And he basically was like just constantly hammering me to think critically. Yeah. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, was like, I went from being like, I would read something. I think I might be ADHD or something. I don't know for sure. Like,
no, you're in the right room, dude.
Well, like, I always tell people, dude, this is a little side story, which is a demonstration here. My mom sent a picture of my bedroom to the newspaper, and they wrote an article about how I had the dirtiest bedroom in the entire county. And like, when I read about ADHD stuff with my one child, it's like, are they disorganized and have a dirty bedroom? I'm like, that's me to a T. But anyway, to go back, So to go back to this, like, I think that I don't even know where I was going with that story. I think
what you learned from your studies.
Yeah. Okay. So to go back to it, actually, is I would read things and I would struggle to retain. Yeah. And I can hear. I'm a very good auditory learner. So if I listen to something, and I played the tuba for 13 years. So I'm like a very good auditory listener or learner. And one of the things that I learned was that when I was in college, I learned how to read and be critical of what I was reading, and to break down things I was reading, and to think through it, and to slow down my mind. Because a lot of times I jump to conclusions quickly. Sure. And so I think that's the biggest thing for me. And to go further with rituals, I became obsessed with learning about the Orthodox Christian Church. I became obsessed with learning about Confucianism and these groups that are very, very regimented and ritualistic, and they have processes, and they have things that happen for a reason. You treat people a certain way for a reason. And I think that that's something I've tried to like hold, and honestly, I think the corny way for me to answer this would be like, the golden rule essentially stems from Confucianism, is like to do unto others as you would want done unto yourself. And I think that that's truthfully like really what, for me personally, what matters the most. But it was really the critical analysis,
thinking and learning how to do that.
Yeah. And I remember reading texts and being like, that's what, like, holy crap, that's what this means. That's what all these things mean. And it's fun for me now. My kids ironically go to Catholic school. So it's fun to listen and to challenge and to.
Well, it's got to be awesome for them, because they're in that setting to be able to offer some perspective, and because they're immersed in it at school. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
The Coach 'em Up podcast is sponsored by Squat Wedgies. Tim, what are squat wedgies?
Squat wedgies are an adjustable squat wedge, 7, 13, and 20 degrees.
It's big enough to elevate your whole foot and not just your heel.
Because it's rubber, it doesn't slide on surfaces.
It's 22 pounds, so it's durable and stable enough for even your biggest athletes.
There's a 90-day risk-free trial. The shipping is free, and
get 15% off squat wedgies with our discount code, coachemup15.
Coach 'em Up coachemup 15 for 15% off of the best squat wedge on the planet. The Coachemup podcast has partnered with Eleiko.
Let's go.
Not only is Eleiko found in 85% of Power 5 schools, but they also offer at-home solutions from racks, flooring, rigs, barbells, bumper plates, your favorite accessories like straps and weightlifting belts. You name it, Eleiko's got you covered. Go to eleiko.com/coachemup and get access to the same equipment that they're using in the best facilities with the best athletes on the planet.
And now back to the show.
Okay, so we're back. You're hitchhiking across Canada.
Yeah.
What the fuck's going on there?
So I had a drinking problem.
Dude, you are in the right room. You know, I've been sober. I think 7 years in June, maybe.
That's awesome,
Is it
dude.
6 or 7? I can't remember.
So I've been sober probably 9 months.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and I've had like
That's a long time.
in and out like substance issues for a lot of So I got read.
Oh, you're in the right room.
So like early in my career, I did really well early on, my freshman and sophomore year, and I learned. My parents didn't drink or anything, right? Like they never like prepped me for what it would feel like and be like
how great it is.
Yeah, I was like, I remember like the first couple of times drinking and being like, dude, I love this feeling. I just love it. I love the feeling of bullshitting and talking and being the I would get drunk and be the
main character.
That's me. Like I would go into a room and everybody would be like, yeah, Dane's here. He's gonna do something stupid. So basically those 2 years sort of I did really well, and then I sort of fell off because I was drinking like heavily, very heavily. And so my fourth year, my coaches were like, yo, we're going to redshirt you and you got to like try and
Get it together.
get back together. Okay. And I didn't do that because I was redshirted. So I was like, oh, I'm redshirting. I don't even have to travel. I can just get drunk all the time.
Yeah, kiss of death.
And so literally I dropped out of school on my birthday, my fourth year. And I went home and my dad was like, dude, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to like have like a come to Jesus.
Yes.
Like I need to have some type of vision quest, literally. And so that's what I did. I was like, I'm going to hitchhike across Canada. It's going to be safer there. And I'm going to go all the way out to the Pacific Islands. And then I'm going to come back.
Dude.
I started east of Toronto and I went all the way out into the Pacific. And then I hitchhiked all the way back to South Dakota and then met with one of my friends from high school. His parents were in South Dakota and we drove back home from there. And it was like 60 some days of just being on the road.
Wow, dude.
It's crazy. Dude, this is a funny story. So there was a website, I don't even know if it's still around. There's two websites I use. They're called DigiHitch and Couchsurfing. Okay, so Couchsurfing, you could hit people up and be like, yo, can I sleep on your couch? So I was in Edmonton and I went and I stayed on this guy's couch and he wanted to go lift. And I was like, yeah, I'll go lift. I haven't lifted in like by this point, like 3 or 4 weeks. And I put 315 on the bench and I'm like, I'm going to impress this dude. And I repped it like just hammering reps. Dude, I was sore for like 6 straight days because I hadn't done shit for the entire time. But that's where.
Was that guy like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he was like, we actually went out that night and we did like a trivia thing and I killed it at this trivia thing because it was all NFL questions.
Nice.
And they're like, this guy, like he's killing all the trivia and he's benching 315 for reps. Like,
what's going on?
Yeah, what is going on? And the next day I just hitchhiked out of there.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
you just showed up and just fucking threw 15 on the bar, just mogged on the local gym, won trivia and then dipped. You're like, I'm out of this stupid fucking town later.
Leaving. You guys don't have any nighttime. It's like light till 3 in the morning and then light again at 5:30.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so I had gone through Kamloops, British Columbia, and I knew about Dylan Armstrong, who was like, he actually came to school at UT for a year. I had known about him, and so I got my act together a little bit, And I've struggled here and there. And then he had posted this thing online that he wanted a training group, and I was like, I'm going to go up there. I'm moving up there.
Nice.
And I moved to Canada. I trained with Dr. B for a year and learned everything I could from him, and I would pester him.
So you were with Bondarchuk for a year.
Every day, twice a day. I would wake up at 3 a.m. I'd fucking deliver newspapers in the morning. I would go to training at 9 a.m. I would take a nap in the middle of the day. I'd go to train in the afternoon, and then I'd get dressed and I'd go work as a bouncer, and I'd fucking repeat that. And I would do that and I'd have, my dog was with me, so he'd sit, literally my dog, not like my friend.
Not your boy.
Yeah, my dog would sit in the car during training when I was delivering newspaper. Like,
He was your road dog, actually.
yeah, literally, yes.
Okay, so first of all, you're an enigma. What a fucking... This is incredible. I mean, honestly, we started 24 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Nonstop action. This has been incredible. I got to know, dude. Because, and again, much like kind of when I brought up like the Jay Schrader and Warner Gunther tapes and stuff, and like you see that stuff circulate and you hear people give their takes and opinions and use it to either confirm their biases or whatever, however they use it. The same thing sort of happens with the Vershanskys and the Bondarchuks.
Yep.
And I think if most people are honest, they don't really know what the fuck they're talking about. And I respectfully, but actually, and so now that I have an opportunity to sit across from someone who spent a year training with him,
And I talked to Dr. B a lot about Vershansky.
really,
Yeah.
Well, I want to know, okay, what are some of the things most people butcher about his training? Well, let's start with this. What are your big takeaways? What do you feel like you learned? What are some philosophical impacts it had on you? And then I would love to get into like, what are some of the things that you feel like get butchered most often?
I think the biggest thing for me with Dr. B was never stop learning. Like he would say, so I would go to his house at lunch and I'd ask him questions, and constantly so there's a guy named Derek Everly. I actually wrote an article for his website. It's called like Reflections of a Master. This is from like 2007, a while ago. And it was just like a 2 or 3 page response of me constantly asking Dr. B what I was looking for. And he would sit there and he would try to be taking a nap, and he would just like yell at me like, Dane, there's any system works, but there has to be a process. Like anything works. So he would say anything can work if there's like a sequence that's proper for that to be implemented.
Yeah.
And if the coach is willing to learn from the athletes, and that's like the big thing is like, you're constantly learning from, like, my biggest personal takeaway is my number one teacher is my athletes.
The athlete themselves.
Yeah. And I think like that's been the absolute biggest thing. The psychological aspect, I've learned, so Dr. B would type athletes physically, meaning they would have like a reaction to stimulus one of 3 ways usually.
What were those 3 things?
So basically, I mean, this also goes in with it, is like people will talk about Dr. B and they'll say they're doing a Bondarchuk system.
Okay.
But a Bondarchuk system is you will come in and you'll do, let's say a session is set up like this. You would do 120K power cleans, 2 sets of 5. Okay, next thing you do is leg reverse hypers, no weight, just your legs, 2 sets of 10. Next thing, quarter squat, 125, 2 sets of 5. Next thing, pad bench, a sequence like this. And you might do V-ups, and then you might do like jump step ups.
Okay.
6 exercises, 2 sets. You do that in the morning. Then you come back in the afternoon and you do the same thing in the afternoon. And then you go back the next day, you do the same thing in the morning. Then you do the next day, the same thing in the afternoon. Sometimes there would be a switch where you do 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. And then the next day, the morning would be the same as the previous day.
Okay.
But it's basically you're doing the exact same workout every single session, like to a T.
Whoa.
And so we would also do like dumbbell throws. We would do shot swings. We would do throws for height.
And this gets into the special strength.
That's the special part. Yeah, that would be, so we would throw, we would lift, and then we do the special work. And like, that was the way the program was set up, and that's how it would be implemented. So when people will say like they're doing a Bondarchuk system, I would ask them like if he believed that if you're throwing a 16 or even a 2K discus, you didn't need to be as strong as people in the US think that you need to be as far as general strength is concerned.
Interesting.
And I have my takes on it now.
Sure.
Now that I've been in it for a while and I've had success, and I've also seen his system, literally, like I would call it like the grandson of his system just won the Olympics in the hammer throw, which is cool to see.
That is cool.
So I think for me, the biggest takeaway though still goes back to you learn from your athletes, you have some type of system.
Yeah.
And then, dude, honestly, the other thing is you have a culture. You have some type of freaking culture set up for success. We would throw in like literally negative 15 degrees.
Yeah.
We sometimes would be throwing in the snow. We would be outside. And the thing is like you're in a group of people who's everyone's aligned. Everyone's got this vision that they're working towards. And at the time in 07 and 08, it was Dylan. And Dylan ended up getting third at the Olympics.
Jesus.
So that was like, those are like the three biggest aspects. And then also like you have to be technically proficient in your sport. Like that's like the big aspect.
You said something that I think is awesome. You said that he said that every system works if it's planned out and it's appropriate. And also the biggest teacher is going to be learning from the athletes. And what clicked in my mind is like, well, what's more important? A system or a particular ideology or a certain set of principles.
Yeah.
Or learning how an athlete responds to stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
It's
learning how the athlete is going to respond.
And I think the cool thing about systems are not that they're the answer. Because like you said, for example, that thrower that won the hammer is like the grandson of the system.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think a system, and this is kind of cliche, but it's like all systems are imperfect or whatever. But it's like, they give you a good place to start.
Yeah.
But when you try and mash people and force them into said systems and you leave out the part where what you're seeing on a day-to-day basis and the feedback you're getting, like at a certain point, like you're not actually coaching if you're just funneling someone into a system, right?
I think that's the other thing is that we have this conception, okay, that, and I actually sort of relate this to business. There's a really good business book that they talk about this same thing. Okay, so in the US, we think systems tend to be a static process.
Yeah.
Like it goes this and it's like a flow chart.
It's on a timeline.
Yeah, it's and like everybody uses it in business, we use it's called the waterfall flow, like the waterfall system of implementation basically. And it doesn't work. Like things fall behind. Like the big fancy colored graphics look nice in the beginning, but then everybody's late with stuff. And I think we have to recognize that just because you have a training system doesn't mean it's not dynamic. And I think that's the big misnomer is like everybody, you need a system.
Yep.
And you need the system to be dynamic. And that's what's going to make it that much better.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so that you can have different types of athletes come through and succeed. And then you also have to define success and do all these things for those people. So it's like, I think that the rigidity and this goes back to the things that bother me, that make me feel like a snowflake little bitch, is like I will look at like people who are rigid in their structure.
We were talking about this prior to the podcast, which y'all could have heard the car ride over here.
Yeah. or people trying the Schroeder stuff and the Archuleta style.
Yeah.
Or even the Gunther stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've got to know where to put that and pull other things and to test, to be able to test something to see a result.
Mm-hmm.
But when you don't have a system and you just cling to certain things over and over again, like you do plant your flag and people buy into it, but you might not have any idea what is actually working.
Right.
And that's what makes it unsuccessful long term.
Yep.
And
the people who get the best results are just the ones. It's happening statistically. It's happening by chance. You know what I mean? You're getting a good athlete, or this person just happens to respond well to the stimulus. Whereas you could have met a lot more people where they're at had you taken the time to be aware of how they were responding to training. And I really think it boils down to just caring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Literally caring.
You could argue that that's all that is. Actually, is just actually caring about, you know,
what the athlete's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two things. One, you mentioned that Bondarchuk classifies athletes in 3 different ways regarding around how they respond to training. And I wanted to dig in a little bit about that. So like, what are those classifications and how do they respond to training differently?
Okay. So I would just say this. This is my interpretation. It's a Cliff's Notes.
Got it.
And if you want it, and if somebody's watching, I would say try to read one of his books and try to understand half of what the book says, but the books are really hard to read and just like
many people quote Bondarchuk, far less have read the book.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
100%.
Listen, I've got some Franz Boschian influence on some of my training.
Yeah.
Strength training, strength and coordination.
Yeah,
that book
is brutal.
Oh my God. I couldn't finish it.
Yeah.
I couldn't finish it. And it was brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, but one paragraph.
I still don't know what a tractor is.
I mean, fuck me.
Yeah, I'm reading. I'm like, come on. If I get a kid to power clean 315 for a triple, and you're doing your water bag hip lock, and they meet in the middle, who's winning?
Yeah.
Okay, so to go back to what you were saying, and I do like, dude, I am also same with that stuff.
Never go full Bosch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think the way he would look at athletes, okay, so there's curves of adaptation, and so he would talk about Yuri Sadiq. So Yuri Sadiq was the Olympic champion, I think 88 and 76. I don't know if he won in 88 now. I think that was Lipinov. But anyway, Lipinov was another one of his guys. But Sadiq was a world record holder in the hammer. And I think the grandson in there now, not his actual grandson, but Ethan Katzberg, who's Canadian, I think will break Sadiq's world record. Anyway, going back to this, the reaction curve is just this long, slow, steady growth over time. Like you can throw anything at this athlete and they'll just slowly chip away, and they'll very rarely have any fall off in performance in their sport and in the gym. And then the next athlete will have more sporadic up and downs and up and downs and up and downs. Like they're a little bit more unpredictable, but once you figure out the predictability part, they can be a little bit easier to peak.
So this is like kind of taking on the concept of like giving them enough stimulus over a given period of time, allowing them to deload, super compensate per se,
and then come back up
or taper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the third one would be they get a stimulus and they have this huge reaction like right away. They in training you have like the first 5 days. Let's say you're a shot putter, you start throwing really well.
Yeah,
you're dropping bombs. And then it just plummets for like 15 to 25 days until it starts to climb back up. It takes time to come back around, and like you drop down and then you slowly come back up.
Okay.
So that would be Bondarchuk's take on the adaptations behind that. I'm
Right.
I'm not saying it's his verbatim.
It's not written in stone.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a philosophical question, and then I want to talk about culture because you brought that up, and I want to dig into you're growing your brand and owning the gym. But at this juncture, you have coached athletes, Olympic competitors, world champions. I don't know how many D1 level athletes. Right? Mm-hmm. You've been fucking doing it and doing it at a high level for a long time. So first of all, just respect, hats off to you for being in the game, for for having skin in the game this long.
Mm-hmm.
How has your philosophy on training changed? And we're talking like from those formative days, and you're essentially, having a sensei in Dr. B.
Yeah.
From when you first started training and working with athletes. What have been some major shifts for you in your approach to training athletes, and what's important to you, and some of the lessons you've learned?
Dude, so this is like, and I think for me, okay, so when I left Dr. B, I got a phone call. Okay, so I didn't have a cell phone either. This is 2008 when I left, when I came home, then like fall of 08. My parents were done giving me any money or anything.
Sure.
And I
had enough.
Yeah. And I had a landline and I would just talk to people through landline.
Yeah.
And I was downstairs and I would write these blogs, dude. I actually have a blog spot. Like if you went and read it, it's absolutely insane. And my mom yells down and she's like, Dane, Adam Nelson's on the phone. And so I was like, what? So Adam Nelson was the 2004 Olympic champ in the shot. He's American. Okay. And he had just gotten back from Beijing.
Okay.
Where Dylan beat him. And so he's like, I want to know what you did. Like, I want to know what happened up there. I want to know what
Whoa.
Yeah, what went on.
He found out you had been training with him up there, and he was like, what the fuck were y'all doing?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Epic.
So we start working together. Dude, I didn't even cash. He sent me a check, the first check. And if I even told you what he paid me, you'd be like, you're so dumb. And I didn't even cash it because I kept it because it had his name and he was paying me.
Wow.
I had a poster. Like I have a poster of this dude in my gym. Like I was so amped.
You're like, I can't cash this fucking check. Yeah. I'm keeping this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I'm going to get buried with this thing.
Yeah. So long story short is he and I worked together for like, I want to say, let's just say 6 months, right?
Okay.
And I was telling him what we did and trying to make it fit to him.
God,
and at this time, he's like 32, maybe. He's on the tail end of his career. And I couldn't comprehend why he wouldn't want to just do what Dr. B did.
Right.
And so he actually linked me up with Charles Poliquin. So he trained with Poliquin. So I was like sort of dead set in my ways that I wanted to go about everything like this, this way.
Yep.
Okay. And then I was training. I started in my garage that year. Okay. 08, fall of 08. I got a wrestler. I had literally a wrestler and Jason. And that wrestler made it to states. And when he made it to states, and in Pennsylvania, if you wrestle and you make it to states, like you turn into a legend.
Yeah.
So more wrestlers started coming around. And so I was training them sort of like the way Werner Gunther trained. And so,
hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. So I decided, I was like, all right, I'm going to go up and learn from Poliquin because if nothing else, it's going to help me with my wrestling training background. Mm-hmm. So I go to Rhode Island and I'm there twice, learn a lot. And I start to like think through my training from Dr. B. And then I'm like starting to see how Adam and what he was saying, I could start to relate to it a little bit more. And then I started to train a lot of high school kids and I realized like, high school kids don't want to do the same thing every day in the gym.
No.
If they're telling their mom or dad, like, that's not a good business decision.
Right.
And then I started to play around with all the Archuleta stuff more and more and more. And then I was like, well, then I realized, like, okay, well, 5 minutes of doing isos on each leg isn't really a good way to make money either.
Right.
But I wanted results. And I had grown up weightlifting.
Yeah.
Like snatching and cleaning and squatting and benching and this stuff.
Yeah.
So I slowly started to use more like the Poliquin stuff. And what was interesting is, like, from like 2010, 2011. So actually, this is cool. 2012, I coached at my first weightlifting comp. Okay, 2012. First weightlifting comp I coach at. It was the night of the London opening ceremonies. By 2016, I was coaching Norik Vardanian to snatch the American record at the Olympic trials in 2016.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Dude.
So, like, I went.
Life's crazy, ain't it?
Yeah. And, like, during that time.
You were fucking hitchhiking across fucking Canada.
Literally 8 years prior to that. Yeah. Yeah. So like, I sort of went full swing opposite of Dr. B.
Yeah.
And what happened was 2016 was the first time I got somebody to the Olympics.
Yeah.
And
The first time.
Yeah.
Just, I wanted y'all to clock that real quick.
Yeah. And I started to figure things out and get things to work. And by this time, like, stuff started to really roll for me with the gym, with wrestling. Like, I had a couple All-Americans by 2016 in NCAA, a couple state champs in wrestling. Swimming, I worked with by like 2017, 2018, a girl named Margot Gear, who was a Pan Am Games, a relay world champion. So I started to get a lot of other athletes, and what I have learned now is, like, I went like real far to the
other end of the spectrum.
heavier style of training.
Yeah.
And then what's interesting is
And it worked for you.
it really, really works well. And, like, I realized that, like, the best part about Dr. B's training system was that he figured out how to throw a lot of reps, a lot of throws.
Yeah.
And you could
recover from
and
it.
recover. And it took a while from training, lifting 5 days a week to 4 days a week to 3 days a week to get my throwers. And, football is a little different, but wrestlers to lift enough so they get stupid strong, but they can still perfect their skill.
Yeah.
And so for me, and I'm a weightlifting coach. Well, our weightlifters, I have some weightlifters that'll train 9 sessions a week. And I think what I've learned now, and this is the really interesting part, is that Alex Rose, who's the number 11 discus thrower in the history of the world, he's the first guy I got to the Olympics. He added 7 meters to his PR when he started working with me.
Holy fuck.
In 2015 and 2016. What's interesting is he's now, so we've been to Rio, Tokyo, Paris, and he wants to go to LA. I've gone back to where, because he's older.
Interesting. He can't recover from all the strength volume.
So we're starting to play around with Dr. B's.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, like, for me, the takeaway is, like, there's a system that you have to have assessments.
Yeah.
You have to have all these things lined up. You have to know where your athlete's at. You have to know. And I have a personality. Like, I believe the types are more so. I think the adaptations that Dr. B talks about, I think they're actually related to their psychological type. I think you have stoic people who are people that are just, I call them Zens. Like, they literally can just go with the flow. They're Zen type kids.
They don't get too up. They don't get too down.
They're always rolling.
Yeah.
Then you have the kid who is more of like the social type kid who, in the sense that if something bad happens to them, if somebody cuts them off on the way, or if they stub their toe on the way to training, they want to tell you about how hard their day was. Mm-hmm. And then there's like the type 3 kid who is like basically the simplest way is like the meathead. And the reason why they have this huge spike in their recovery is they're getting this new stimulus and they're amped up, but they're the kid that goes for broke all of the time. And they go for broke all the time, so they plummet.
Yeah.
And so for personally,
I don't know anything about that.
right. Yeah. is I think I'm looking at all these things that I've learned from Dr. Beef, from what I learned from being a weightlifting coach, from what I learned from working with football and throwing and wrestling and swimming and stuff. And now I'm like, the goal is that you have a setup that you can get enough technical reps of your sport. And then the next thing is that you become an absolute freak of nature so that when you execute those technical things, you're dominant.
Yep.
And then the third thing is longevity. And then in that also is just pocketing everything together so that you have this culture that helps grow these athletes over a long time frame. And that's honestly, I think, where weightlifting comes into play, is that like there's no better feeling or sense that a kid gets, a 13, a 14, a 15-year-old kid who cleans 300 pounds for the first time.
Yeah. Holy fuck. That is a drug.
A kid.
Put it right in my veins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A kid.
Hitting a PR.
Yep.
Good.
A kid learning how to snatch for the first time.
Yeah.
Like they want to learn.
Yeah.
They want to do it. And when they figure it out, it's like, boom.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And they have this technical aggression.
Yeah.
That then they learn, if I have really good technique, I can just apply my aggression.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you clean 225, you bench 225. You have these benchmarks set up, and that's how you grow a culture. So
I want to touch on culture.
I didn't really answer any question there.
No, you did. The question was, how has your philosophy changed? I think you answered it wonderfully. And what I've noticed about you is you're a wonderful storyteller. You answer in the form of a story. I listen better and I engage more in that way. I'm the same way. So I can this, this is best case scenario for me. If you're a binary listener and you like things black and white, guys, I'm sorry. You're going to have to actually listen to this one. But no, I think you did a wonderful job of answering that, because, and what I took from what you said is, I started off with an idea around what training should look like. And I'm going to get some eye rolls of people listening to this podcast because I say this shit all the time. A reigning principle, an umbrella principle, is that I don't want to be right. I want to get it right. And I'm much less concerned about trying to make a training philosophy work. And I'm much more concerned about what works. Mm-hmm. And in that way, I've found like this way to be much more nimble. And it's not about, it's like this or that, or this exercise is better than that. Or it's just like, well, what works?
Yeah.
Did this work or did it not work? Mm-hmm. And if the answer is no, we got to do something else.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then it's like, it becomes like you're leaning on the library of experience of years of coaching and making similar training decisions with similar situations and scenarios, right?
Yeah.
I swear we're going to get to the culture piece, but something else just came up. Within the context of that philosophy change, what are 3 to 5 things every youth athlete should prioritize?
So if we had like an 8-year-old all the way up to a 15-year-old.
Let's say we're talking high school aged kid.
Okay, high schooler.
Okay.
Yeah. At my gym, like you would come in, you would learn to either snatch or clean day one, and you would do a full lift day one. I would teach you how to front squat. You would do by like, let's say like day 3. So that would be like day 1. Mm-hmm. Day 2, you would execute a bench or a pull-up, and you got to figure out how to do those. Day 3, we're doing 200 touches of plyos.
Yeah.
Like for the first go around. And we have like a, so I like to call it impulse day. So it's like, how much force can you produce in a time frame? Mm-hmm. So we'll do like a auditory.
Is that from the Schrader stuff?
The term, or
yeah.
No, I just stole that term from a biomechanist named Christoph Kipp. And I thought, and Dan Cleather talks about this. Dan Cleather's a guy that has a book called Force, and he actually breaks down like it should not be called power, it should be called force. Or it should be called impulse. It's how much force in a designated time frame. And I use this concept
that
a
is
lot.
An impulse by definition.
Yeah. And so we do all of our lifts, like all of our weightlifting movements are off of boxes because it decreases the time. And so if you clean 315 off the floor versus
you have a faster impulse.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You have a greater expression of impulse. And that's when you see dudes ruin people on the field, like they know how to turn it on faster. So also then your rate of force development is higher.
Yeah.
So it's quicker.
Yeah.
So to go back to that question, then we're doing the plyos on day 3, but we have a speed version. So we'll do early on. Dude, we do a lot of cleans and snatches where like every single day you're going to touch, you might just do the barbell, but you're going to learn how to move with it.
Yep.
And then we'll do plyos. And then let's say we convince people to come in, we set up our pay structure that they'll come in 4 or 5 days a week. And that's the other thing is like, the one thing to work on is their habits. Get them into the gym 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. And then we do a lot of bodybuilding as well. So that's a way
too.
Yeah, that's a way for us to get kids to stay committed. And also larger muscles produce more force.
Yes.
So
well, I remember a time, I've talked about this on the show before, where if you did a leg extension and you were trying to be an athlete or you were coaching athletes, you were the village idiot.
Yeah.
That was an isolation movement, and that's bodybuilding, and you're going to be slow and bulky because you're a bodybuilder now.
And the quads break.
But I have patellar tendonitis constantly.
Yeah, exactly.
And all my squats, I sit back in my hips.
And they'll do sled pulls backwards. Yeah. And not think.
Yeah, but those are fine.
Yeah, those are okay.
Those are good.
You're not in a machine.
Right. Because machine's bad.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you'll have a sprint. Dude, this was crazy with this. You'll have a sprint cyclist. So I've trained one of the best sprint cyclists in the world. His name's Hugo Barrett.
Okay.
This dude will leg press with one leg like 900 pounds. Fuck. And he can power snatch 120. He can, back squat 250 for triples. And it's like, but he leg presses. Doesn't that mean he's going to be a bad sprint cyclist? It's like, no, like,
right.
Get out of that. So to answer 5 things, I would be like, we learn snatch or clean. You learn how to front squat or single leg squat or back squat. You learn how to bench or do a pull up, and you learn how to jump. And when you learn how to jump, you're going to run better. Like all those things go. And then you learn how to have habits to show up 5 days a week. And then you just grow from there. It's like, it's for, I think the biggest thing for me is instilling kids. Like people will talk shit on kids and I'm like, you want to talk shit on kids, but I have 250 active members and 85% of them are 17 years or younger.
Wow.
And these are dogs. These are kids that are like way stronger than I was growing up.
Holy dude.
My son's 13. He just snatched 70 kilos.
What the fuck?
And it's like, and he's not even, we have a 12-year-old girl who's stronger than him. So it's like, that was not happening when I was growing up. Unless you were some drugged up Russian chick. Like with hairy armpits.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Yeah. She's like, what's your name? She's like, Svetlana. Hell yeah. Dude, so let's talk about the culture and the brand and the business. And is the starting origin, does it all begin and end with you opening the gym?
Yeah.
Like, is that the birthplace of Garage Strength and the brand and where you started to build that culture?
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing is like, dude, it was in my parents' garage and it was, 400 square foot garage.
Dude, shout out your parents.
Yeah, they just dealt with me, dude. They just dealt with me.
Some people, they gotta love you till you learn to figure it out.
Dude, so we have a Monopoly tin, and Jason could tell you about this. Dude, I accepted payments in a Monopoly tin. Like it's literally like a tin that you put in pencils when you're growing up.
Yes.
And it's like this big. People would just come in and they put in $10. That's how they paid to come in. They put in $10. Dude, this thing would just be flowing with money. And so we started I just want to tell you a story quick. We started in my parents' garage, right? And it's 800 square feet. And we would heat the gym with a wood stove. That's how we heated the gym. So it's like,
wow,
that's the feeling you get.
Is that why you have the fire on the...
Sort of. That's
the Olympic flame, right?
Right. Yeah. It's like our term is cultivate your power. So to me, it's like your energy, like the essence, the strength inside of you is like, how can we get as much out of you as possible?
Fuck yeah.
And so we're in my parents' garage and I'm there for like 2 or 3 years and my dad's like, when do you think you're gonna like move out? And I was like, well,
like, have you saved up enough money?
He's
son?
like, do you have money saved? I was like, yeah, I've been living at home. I'm 28, I'm 27. Actually, I think I might have moved out by then, but
You were getting up there.
Yeah, I was getting up there. And my sister and I had enough money saved that my sister and I bought a farm.
Okay.
She got the house, I got the barn. Okay, so my dad comes over. It's like 2 years we're at the barn, and he's like, and we heated the whole place with a freaking wood stove, dude, constantly. Guys that work for me, one dude who still works for me right now, his name's DJ. He cleaned 207 kilos. He still tells kids, I would work and I'd have to split freaking firewood and bring it in, or I'd have to stack it and bring it in to fucking eat the gym. But my dad comes in one day and he's like, I got you a tackle box. You can't keep a fucking Monopoly tin. Like, what are you doing? And I think like that, what's funny is like that example is like how my mind works. And it's also like, I never thought about cash or like how to, I would just put the money and put it into my bank, and my wife at the time was a teacher.
Yeah.
So like, I never thought through how to advance the company.
Yes.
I was like, I need to make more state champs. I need to make an Olympian. I need to make all
You were
Americans.
obsessed with being a great coach. And
That's
doing a good
all
job.
I gave a fuck about, dude. That's
Yeah.
it. That's all I thought. And like, I still, there's times I look back and I'm like, what was I doing? I missed so many opportunities
Sure.
early
Sure.
that I'm like, that I got so obsessed over this. And it resulted in like, dude, I went to the Tokyo Olympics. By the time I was 35, 36, I'm at my first Olympics. Like, that's pretty fucking cool.
Huge.
Too. So I think like the birth of it is really when I started it. And then what ends up happening is, dude, COVID is what catapulted the brand, like company of Garage Strength, and
Fascinating.
and literally it was the best thing for me as a business owner.
Sure.
Like we were broke, we were dead broke, and when they gave the PPPs, I remember being like, I got to figure out how I'm going to make this, how I'm going to take 30K or 36K and turn it into 150.
Yep.
And I emailed John Meadows.
Really?
Yeah. And that dude fucking,
What was his nickname? Mountain Dog?
yeah, that dude fucking sat down with me for 3 hours to tell me what to do.
Wow.
Yeah. That was
No
cool as fuck.
kidding. Rest in peace.
Yeah, dude, fuck.
That's incredible that he was willing to do that.
So he talked to me for 3 hours and was like, go all in on YouTube. Just do this. Don't fucking stop. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. All in.
He pointed you and said shoot, and you went and did it.
Yeah. And so then what's crazy is like, I came home and my wife saw, dude, my wife's got to deal with I come home and I'll be like, yo, I got to tell you this, I tell her lifts, like I tell her about throws.
Sure.
Like the dumbest shit. Like she doesn't give a shit at all.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I had a call with the Mountain Dog. He was like, do this and check in like 6 months. I checked in 6 months.
Wow.
And it was like, we went from 5,000 subs to 10,000 to all of a sudden a year later, like within a year we had 120. And then I started to see business ideas, and we would run everything off of
Where's the channel at now?
620.
Wow.
Yeah, 620K.
Wow.
And that's where I started to see like, okay, I instead of just YouTube, I can take, we took PDF programs,
Right.
the spreadsheets, and now we have an app called Peak Strength that we use, that people can download, that it actually will have shit that we train, the way we train.
That's awesome.
But I don't think I got into the culture. Did you ask me a question?
Yes. Yeah. So the first it was the origin, and then I was gonna get into the culture.
Okay.
So you're good. You're on track still.
Okay.
Yeah. We're
I
very
got
alive.
sidetracked quick.
No, we're very listen. You're again. So that was more about like how the brand came about, how it's gotten to where it's at today.
Yeah.
You've mentioned culture a few times, and we talked about this off air, about how that's one of those words that gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
Most people if you ask him what it means, can't give you a real definition of what it means to them, even specifically. Let alone how to take what that is and then get people to buy in and, exude that thing.
Yeah.
So, Dane, what is culture?
So I see culture as I think it's fair that it can be hard to define.
Yeah.
Somebody comes into the gym and they immediately sense something. There's an energy, right? There's this energy that is intense and playful at the same time.
Yep.
Like trolling, but fun.
Yes.
And not to be corny, but not judgmental either. Like literally you're coming in to slam weights and to have fun and to be better.
Yeah.
And you come in and you see banners, you see Olympic banners, you see banners of all Americans up on the wall. Like that's what we do. We memorialize you basically.
Yeah.
And so I see this as like culture to me is a group setting, a community setting that is like this high intense energy of aligned goal-based people that are aligned to accomplish a similar goal, and the similar goal being they want to become like the best version of themselves in some way. And so I actually have a corny acronym I like to use, and it starts with trust. And so somebody has to trust you. So you have to show competence as a coach, and then you can establish that relationship. You have to have expectations. Okay, so it's TEAM. You have to have expectations of you're going to come to training this many days a week. There's going to be clarity on everything. You're going to know exactly what you have to do. I'm going to go through the training in this specific process. And this goes back to like the processional things I was talking about in the beginning.
Yeah.
There's a very clear process of what happens when you're in the gym.
Yes.
And then it gets into the things that are like rubber to the road, which is like now you're getting off of the trust, and the expectations can be a little bit more abstract. Now you're getting into the accountability.
Yeah.
And with accountability is consequence, and consequence is either positive or negative. Okay, so you either are going to come in and you're going to do your shit and the whole group will hold you accountable in a good way, or the whole group will call you out in a bad, in a way that
fuck have you been?
Yeah, in a way that you will perceive as negative, but in reality is likely positive.
Yeah.
And then the final aspect is a mentorship, which is like, the mentor is like, this is about support. This is about providing as many resources as you need, providing, the system, the program, the gym, the travel and all that stuff. And I think part of that mentor is, and what I saw with Dr. B and what I've seen with other coaches is you're always going to be there. Like you're going to travel, you're going to sacrifice a lot. You're going to put a lot of shit out there, and you are going to get your shit done, and you're going to do whatever it takes to continuously help that group setting. And it ties back to trust. That mentor comes back into that person's going to trust you more, and they're going to know the expectations further, and they're going to hold themselves accountable, and they're going to hold others accountable. And then it goes, in this cycle. So I think that it's an energy. It's an effort. It's a belief in consequence is really what it is in a good way.
Belief and consequence.
Yeah.
I love that. Because wow, that's profound. I don't know why that feels so profound to me, but having an understanding that there is a consequence for how I do or don't show up.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the thing is like the way that we build the whole training is like we've got. I truly think there's very key concepts that we have in our like system.
Yeah.
First, when you learn how to clean, when you learn how to do something like that right away.
Yeah.
You get filtered out quickly.
Sure.
And on top of that, I can learn what you're like.
Yep.
If I'm giving you a cue and you're like, oh, well, I was told not to squat, with my knees going forward, I can immediately tell you're a type 2 kid.
Yeah.
And I have to change the way I'm going to communicate to you.
Yep.
I've got to back off with my cues. My cues got to be more snowflakey cues.
Yep.
I got to rub your back. You're probably an only child. You're probably spoiled and privileged. And if you're a kid that's just, you know, I go to get a drink of water and I can see you in the mirror
still trying over and
you're
over.
likely a type 1. Like,
Yeah, sign me up.
I'm going to get this done. And if you're the kid that's like, when can I put weight on? You're probably a type 3.
Yeah.
And I'm going to communicate to you in that way. And I think that literally is a huge thing. The other aspect for us is like, we have this concept that we call sport depths. And so I think there's really only 4 ways that you can get someone better. It's speed, it's explosiveness, it's strength, and it's endurance. And we break it down into 5 groups. Okay. So sports are in 5 groups. And it's a general thing that we use, but basically you have like strength and power, which is like a shot putter, a power lifter, a weight lifter. Mm-hmm. Then you might have speed and power here, which would be like a running back, you know, let's say more
Rugby.
Yeah. Type sport depth 3 is combat. So now you're an MMA, you're a wrestler. Type 4, you're looking at like a lacrosse player, basketball player, a soccer player. They tend to run a bit more. Mm-hmm. Sport depth 5 would be, okay, now we're on the full endurance side. We have triathletes, marathoners, you know, basically you would be like a 10K runner or more.
Got it.
And each sport depth has a percentage of training based off of explosiveness, strength,
I see.
speed, or endurance. And so we can look at that and then we're saying, okay, based off of their sport qualities, this is what they need. Okay, so then we can start to differentiate and identify that. And then we say, okay, these are the main lifts. These are the fundamental lifts for your sport.
Yep.
And if we look at the fundamental lifts and the fundamental qualities, the fundamental tests, now we know, and the way we break our periodization is that we establish levels. There's a level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. And to get, you know, level 4 would be like a professional. Level 1 is the kid who's 7th grade, 8th grade. And then along the way, we have these points of benchmarks. And it's like the benchmark is you learn how to clean. Then you learn how to clean 95 pounds. Then you learn how to clean 135. Then you learn how to clean 185. Then you clean 225. Then you clean 250. Then you clean 275. Then you clean 300. Those are benchmarks along the way. And there's milestones. And when you achieve those milestones, you get to the next level.
Yeah.
And
So
you
it's the culture is also in that sense gamified in a way.
100% gamified.
The goal is to improve these metrics.
Yes.
That's what we're here to do. Everyone's on the same fucking page.
Yeah.
Everyone's working towards those goals together.
Yeah.
So you've set, you talked about setting expectations in your team acronym, but you've obviously done a wonderful job of setting clear what those benchmarks are.
Yeah.
For improving athleticism as it pertains to those buckets that you just mentioned.
Yeah, and then we can say, look, your vert sucks. We need to work on your explosiveness.
Yeah.
These are the lifts that follow underneath explosiveness.
Got it.
And these are the exercises. This is where we're going to focus here. And then what's cool is like we test. So the other part of our culture is we test every 12 to 20 weeks, depending upon seasons. Mm-hmm. And we can see in most kids, if they can single leg squat 315 for a triple, they'll have a vert over 30 inches. Like it's like 91%.
It's like high likelihood.
Very high. We literally took all of last year's results and put it into ChatGPT and got the result back.
Yeah.
And it was like, if you single leg squat 315 for 3, there's a 91% chance you have a 30-inch vertical based off of 200 tests. And to me, 150 is the number that we look at like, okay, this is a trend.
Yeah.
Like now 150 sample size, now it's a trend.
Yeah.
So like that's how everything is set up and they know. So then everybody comes in and knows what the fundamental lifts are for their sport group, their sport depth, and they know they're going to be held accountable to work towards that. And then they're just constantly building towards becoming better. And that is part of the culture too. And I think like the part that I still get sad boyed about is when I see somebody who is not developing a culture, who hasn't done those things and hasn't contributed. They haven't bought in and cared about their athletes. They just, and that shit pisses me off so bad. And I think it's actually partially why sometimes I think it's partially why we haven't grown as much as I would like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've shackled the company to a point.
Yeah. Because you care.
and I haven't hired like a business person to run the company.
Yeah, that's tough though.
Yeah, it's
delegating
hard.
that.
It's really hard, dude.
Yeah, well, the issue I've found with stuff like that is finding people who you can trust and can rely on and are going to actually be able to deliver.
Yeah.
You know,
In the way that you want it.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard.
Or at least to a percentage of what you want.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. Zach, what's the best training app on the planet?
It has to be Train Heroic. Gone are the days of sending the old crusty PDF. Now we have a sleek new app.
It's easy to use. There's videos with descriptions. You get to track and log your weight, your reps. There's a community chat function. You can submit videos. You can get feedback.
How about the leaderboard, Tim?
I started using Train Heroic first as an athlete and someone who wanted to learn. Now I use it as a coach. Athletes and other coaches can go and be a part of my training community and get results.
Whether you're an athlete, coach, or just like to train, use the link in our description to find out how you can train on the best app in the world.
And join us on Train Heroic today. To go further on growing the brand, between the multiple Instagram pages, your own personal page, the Garage Strength page, YouTube, navigating social media, growing in these spaces. I think anyone who's coached long enough, after a while, you can, a couple things happen. One, you can see that there's more room for opportunity if you're utilizing those spaces, right? It is inherently now a part of the job.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, you have to do it.
It is. And something that you used to not see, but now see much more regularly now is even guys who are in like the, collegiate setting.
Yeah, doing a good job.
And
too.
doing good.
Doing really good
right?
jobs, yeah.
And so now it's like, it's kind of permeated everywhere and it feels inseparable. What advice would you give someone who's just starting out, who is, they care about training, they want to get better, they know that they're missing in this area?
Yeah, I think the first thing I would say is to just hold yourself accountable just like you would for training and say like, I'm going to post once a day for 4 weeks and see what happens. And let's say with Instagram, right? Like I'm going to set this schedule and I'm going to follow these processes and I'm going to do this and I'm going to try. This was the thing that I learned from Meadows is he told me, he said, do this for 6 months. And then at the 6 month mark, put out a video every single day for 40 days.
Whoa.
So
at the 6 month mark.
Yeah. Yeah. He literally said that. So what I did is I took this and I said, okay, we're going to do it for 70 days. Literally. I'm not even lying, dude.
I love this.
So we put out a video every day for 70 days and it was bad.
It's hard.
Yeah. Jason was
You get
stressed.
better though.
The thing that happened is our process, it was like on steroids, dude. Like
I fucking knew where this was
expedited
going.
everything. And what's funny is like errors that we're making right now on YouTube.
Yeah.
We learned in 2021, but we like didn't respect what we had learned.
Right.
And I'm like realizing like, dude, what we learned this in 21 when we did a react to knees over toes guy.
Right.
We learned this when we did a collab with knees over. We learned this when we did all these other things. And I think that for me, it's like set it up and just hold yourself accountable, get it done one time a day and then see what happens. Like just see what happens. And I believe there's a point where posting on social or YouTube will make you a better coach. Like you will literally make you a better coach.
Many have said this, particularly YouTube, the long form.
Yeah.
And which I'm going to start doing here very soon. And that's part of the reason why is because when you're placed in front of a camera and you're posting it.
Yeah.
It's going up. And you start to have to articulate what you're thinking and feeling in a way that a lot of people can receive and ultimately challenge, push back on.
Yeah.
Right?
Call you. Yeah. Say
Call you out.
Yep.
Say you fucking moron.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, and then you if you're open-minded, you can say, well, hold on now.
Yeah. You can, and you learn how to handle that, but then
Yeah.
2, you can learn how to engage with that person too.
Yeah.
And you might learn from them.
You talked about, this six month period. What do you have you do the first 6 months?
So he was,
What was he?
So he's on the call. He said, now, dude, this is literally peak COVID, like end of March, early April. everything was locked down.
Yeah.
Maybe not Texas, but everywhere else was locked down. Like there was nothing, right?
Yeah.
Like even he was in Ohio, nothing. And I think so what he said was like, look, I went on your website. I can tell you know something. You know things, right? You know things. What do you know? You're a throws coach. You learned this from this guy. You like to bench press. You like to snatch. Make a video of 5 keys to snatching. Make a snatch progression video. Make a bench press video. And that was the thing that happened during that 78-day like blitzkrieg that we called it for us internally, was like we had to come up with all these ideas. And so now and it was essentially like he sort of spoon fed like 5 to 10 things to focus on. And then he was like, then the big factor is recognize which pieces of content you like to make.
Yes.
And then the second factor, recognize which pieces of content perform well.
Yep.
And then just pay attention that sometimes you might not like to make something and it performs really well. And 6 months later, you like to make it more because it performs better. So
suddenly the
like it
tune
more.
changed.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so fun. So David Gray, who's been a friend and mentor of mine, it was during COVID. And he said, Tim, I was working with him and I was kind of like bugging him once a month to sit down with him and just pick his brain at this point. And he had helped me overcome some injuries and stuff. And I watched him grow, just have this eruption of growth. And he's doing all the things. He's posting regularly and consistently. He's getting on podcast. He's doing the deal.
Yeah.
Okay. And I went to him. I was like, look, man, like, can you give me some direction? I would love your advice. And he told me, he was like, yeah, here's what you're going to do. We're going to check back in a month. I said, okay.
Yeah. How many? Yeah.
He said, he was like, starting today, you're going to post 9 days in a row. No matter what, you have to make content 9 days in a row.
Yeah.
Period. And I was like, why? He was like, one, because it'll teach you the trait of learning how to create, even when you don't feel like it, even when you don't feel like you have something. You're going to learn what you like, what you don't. And when people go to your page, they're only going to look at your first 9 tiles.
Yeah.
You can completely reinvent yourself in 9 tiles. And by the way, I didn't have anything going on, so there was nothing to reinvent.
Didn't matter. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But I carried on with that philosophy. And the reason I bring this up is what you said is like going through that phase where it's really uncomfortable. It's really hard. You don't know what you're doing. You put something out and you're like, God, that feels dumb. I don't like the way I said this. All of that stuff is the process. It's unavoidable.
Yeah,
and I feel like those are the things that hold people back. There are so many brilliant coaches in this field and space. And like, look, we're all busy. We've all got stuff going on. But like, I just know that there are people listening to this show, watching this show that are just on the precipice of being able to potentially do something really cool. They could have a real impact on the field, but they're still on the sidelines, dude.
They're like slightly scared
because they don't want to go through what you went through.
Yeah.
Because it's hard.
Yeah. And it's weird because I always think this, I'm like, I say this to my wife often where I'm like, yo, like, dude, what I do is hard. I travel all of the time.
Yeah.
But I always would think, dude, when I would watch the Warren Gunther videos, I wanted to make YouTube videos. Like I have videos when I was in college of me lifting. You can look up Randy KPL 69. That's my YouTube channel from college.
Let's go.
So like
the 69 is just incredible, dude.
And I like to do it. And I was like, yeah, why am I not doing this?
Yes.
And it's like, we all, it's a form of expression and it's a form of like,
yeah, for sure,
getting your knowledge out there. Mm-hmm. And then you figure out how to dial in your knowledge into a more packageable, package for people to comprehend. And then it makes you challenge yourself.
Yes.
Deeper and deeper and deeper. And like, that's dude, I had a company. So we had a company that they just published Jeff Nippard's book. I signed a publishing contract with them last fall.
Wow.
The one guy's a big wrestling fan. I have a lot of wrestling videos and he's like, dude, I want you to write a book for the company, publishing company. So they did the Supple Leopard and they did Jeff Nippard's book. So
no shit.
I'm in the process of doing all of this. And even just doing the book it's making me think so much more about the content on YouTube. And I'm like, and what's where I struggle, what's funny is like, I really struggle on short form because like, I just sort of shit my brain out sometimes on short form. And I think that's an area that we could really grow on that we have never really figured out. Mm-hmm. And like the downfall with the book is that it's just like another magnified long form piece of content. Yes. And I'm still like, how the fuck does Tim have so many followers on Instagram? But the thing is like, you just got to get better.
Yeah.
That's it. Mm-hmm. It's just like training.
Yes.
It's like, if you stop, guess what? You're not going to get better at it.
No.
So you might as well just try.
Yeah.
Like, yes, literally just try.
I'll share this. We have a listener, his name's Dylan Shannon. He heard one of our first podcasts and heard a conversation about this. And he shot me a DM and was like, you guys inspired me to start. Today, I think he has, this has been a year now, 130,000 followers.
No way.
I swear to fucking God. He's sponsored by Transparent Labs. He has a program out. Yeah. Here, I'm going to pull up his Instagram handle right now. Dude. And I reached out to him. I was like, dude, I got to have you on the show.
Yo,
because he
sick.
sent me this message. He was like, hey, full circle moment. Because someone else was asking him for advice in his DMs. Yeah. And he was like, I just want to say thank you guys. And it was like this really, I was just like, oh my God, like it really moved me.
That's the other thing that people don't realize is like, there's
underscore Dylan Shannon. Underscore Dylan. He's got 131,000 followers now, and he's supported by Raw Nutrition and Revive MD.
Yeah. And so think about this is like the other positive here, right? If we look at our lives as having a net positive, like at the end of the day, I want to just be able to impact as many people in a positive way as possible. Yeah. Like that's like the part over here. Then there's a part over here. We all have some ego. I want to be the best strength coach in the world. I want to be the best throws coach in the world.
Yep.
What does that mean for me? I want to coach someone to win an Olympic medal. I want to coach someone to win an Olympic title. Egotistically, I want that. Yep. I wanted to egotistically go to the Olympics. What I didn't realize is when you achieve those things, like it's not the ego part, that it's like the actual getting there. That's cool. And that's the thing with the content is it's like, look, if we can have a net positive impact on more people by putting out more content, and you put out more content and you impact more Dylan Shannons, right? Like, guess what? He's going to impact more people positively. Yeah. And then you're going to outweigh lunatics, right? Like, and it's that's the whole goal. And it goes back to like, if I can, I remember thinking I was making a football video, dude. And I was like, I looked at Jason, our video guy, and I was like, this video is going to, in a year, it will have 10 Beaver stadiums, which is Penn State Stadium.
Hell yeah.
And when I thought about it, I was like, they're all going to watch me for at least 4 minutes.
Wow.
And they're going to be just looking at me for 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you think about that, if you can think about impacting at least one person in the entire world for 4 minutes, okay, what if they want to come back and listen to you again? And they want to do it again. And at least they learn how to do a clean.
100%.
They learn how to do a bench. And guess what? They're going to learn how to push a little bit harder, and then they're going to teach somebody else, and everybody's going to be benching 225.
Let's fucking go. Let's make that the universal standard moving forward.
I actually literally said that like 2 weeks ago. I was like, I want to make a campaign about everybody in America should bench 225 who's able-bodied. That's how
Let's go. That is that should be, if you ever get into politics, that should be your marketing.
That's my platform.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, we're almost at an hour and a half already. I can't believe it. So we got to wrap this up.
Okay.
So segments.
Okay.
We'll keep these sort of rapid fire.
Okay.
This first segment is brought to you by Squat Wedgies. Use code coachemup15 to save 15% off on the best squat wedges I've ever used. This segment is called 3 Things. Dane. Someone wants to achieve what you've been able to achieve in your coaching career. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they're just starting. what are 3 things, ideas, attitudes, or principles, whatever they are, 3 things that they can start doing, enacting, living to help them get to where you're at?
Oh man, I feel like people are more eloquent with these questions, because for me, it's like, I think you got to weigh how much do you want finances versus how much do you want to be the best coach. And you weigh that, and I think you should always go towards becoming the best coach possible. But when you do this, what the 3 things I would do then is say, okay, 2 things related to athletics. I'd be like, okay, learn as much as you can about your biggest area of weakness. And for me, that would have been like endurance training. I wish I would have learned more early on.
Yep.
So identify your biggest weakness with, let's say you're for me, I was a shot putter, right? So I was good in power and explosive work. So I didn't know anything about that. Mm-hmm. And then the second thing was rely on your strength. Try to cater towards that. I know that sounds so hokey, but it's like the weakness and the strength that you want to educate your weakness, and you want to rely on your strength on the front end. And then the third thing for me, understand from a business perspective, is that literally it comes down to everything is downstream from a customer. Okay. So if you find who your customer can be, and your whole goal is to get more customers. Mm-hmm. I didn't comprehend that simple aspect until like 2 years ago. It's like literally just think about, okay, who is my customer and where can I find them? Where do they exist? How can I bring them into my ecosystem of existence? And just think through that the customer journey, and everybody will say the customer journey, but literally you've got, your weakness for me was endurance. My strength was power and explosiveness. So I literally was like, all right, I'm getting a lot of athletes that need power and explosiveness. Mm-hmm. Later on, I realized like, that's what I was really good at.
Yep.
So that's where those customers come from. Yeah. And it's like, it sounds so simple, but
not easy, dude.
No, it's not. If you just refine it over and over and over and over again.
I love it. This next segment is brought to you by Train Heroic. Shout out Train Heroic. Shout out Josh. Shout out everyone at Train Heroic. I house my programming there. Zach houses his programming there. A lot of great coaches do so as well. Click the link below in the show notes. Join Train Heroic. Train with Zach. Train with me. Or better yet, build your own program and have other people work with you. This segment is called Rant and Rave. So what is a rant? Something that you're seeing in performance or fitness in general, a trend, an ideology, something that you'd like to see less of, that you think we could do without. And then on the other end, we'll go to rave, something that you want to see more of that you're seeing that's a good thing.
Damn, I wish I'd have watched the end part of your podcast so I could have prepared myself.
I swear to God, many people come on the show. I'm like, they haven't watched it. I haven't watched it. Because I get people, I'm like, oh, this is the first time they've heard this.
Yeah, yeah.
Which, by the way, I don't listen to podcasts anymore either. So I keep going. Okay. Go ahead.
For me, when you're looking at the downfall of fitness and strength, is that you see things that lack fundamental lifts. There's fundamental key lifts. There's a term, transfer of training, that exists.
Yeah.
And transfer of training, in my definition, would be this lift transfers to these lifts. Okay. And so if I learn to do a front squat or a bench or a pull-up or a clean, I'm going to be really good at a massive amount, a huge pool of exercises. Yes. If I'm doing a inverted trap bar deadlift with a thing on my head, I'm only going to be okay at that. And I guarantee you that the person that cleans in front squats and benches and does a lot of pull-ups and does them well will slaughter. The transfer of training will go to the neck brace, trap bar, inverse deadlift.
It will be absorbed by their body.
Yeah. So it's like, guys, I want to see less of these, because the issue I have is that, and the thing I love about social media and content is that you can reach so many people.
Yes.
But if you're a charlatan, a snake oil salesman, look at the Liver King. I had a wrestler who represented Egypt at the World Championships 3 times. Wow. Legit. He literally believed Liver King was not on drugs.
Whoa.
This is a dude who was a world-class wrestler. He thought he looked that way because he was eating liver. And it's like
and testicles.
And you get those charlatans and you get these exercises that don't transfer and you literally misguide. Dude, I'm not even lying with this. You're misguiding 12, 13, 14-year-old kids. And you're going to pull them off of a path for 3 to 4 years. And not only are they going to lose those 3 to 4 years, then they have to come back and undo all the dumb shit that they did. And then they have to try to make up for the ground. And you could literally hinder a kid's growth. Dude, lifting weights fucking made me a really strong-willed person.
Yep.
And you're ruining those opportunities for people because you're a fucking clown. And that shit pisses me off.
Same. I'm with you, dude. Listen, we had a good conversation about that in the car ride over here. And that rant, that's top 3 rant for me. Well done, dude. For someone who's never listened to this far of the show, you really fucking showed up.
Okay, the rave was
rave.
I was singing raves. Yo, I love playing, blasting EDM and lifting weights and fucking ripping tons of caffeine.
Let's fucking go. Yeah. Same. I'm glad we didn't meet each other when we were both still partying.
Yo, that'd be bad.
It'd be bad news. Or great, Well,
yeah. Peer pressure would be very easy. It'd be like, God, just another one.
Yeah, just well, listen, the sun's up, the bird's already out. Keep going. All right, rave.
Okay, so shit. What do I see that I really like? Dude, I love seeing people, Jump Science, Menno Henselman's when he posts stuff. I like seeing how accessible research has become.
Yes.
And I know that sounds like younger kids can't engage with that. They probably aren't as interested in it. Mm-hmm. But it is so freaking cool that you can literally see Brad Schoenfeld post something.
Also, what just a gift to our entire field and industry that guy is. Yeah, and people like him.
Yeah. Yes. And it's like you see, exactly.
You do a good job and take it very fucking seriously.
You take it, you respect your job.
Ken Clark.
Exactly. You see Ken Clark post stuff about speed.
Yeah.
And you get to see it and his take on it in like an informal setting.
Yes.
Like you get to see new research.
Like you're literally rotting on the couch after a long day and you're just like, oh, wow.
I'm on Instagram literally learning what a whip like or a hip or whatever whip.
Yeah, hip whip.
Yeah, hip whip. Like what that means. I'm like, yo, this is sick.
Yeah.
And I think like that's the cool part of in the throwing world, there's Ryan Krauser, Joe Kovacs, like the Valerie Ullman, the best in the world. Mm-hmm. They post stuff.
Valorie's here in Austin.
Yeah,
I watched her one time. Quick story. She trains
animal
this shit. I don't know if she still trains there, but it's not shitty. Hyde Park. It's an Austin establishment. Wonderful place. Grungy gym, but it's not where you would expect an Olympian to train. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
She's got all these, she's memorialized all over. I walk in, her and her trainer, now I believe they're together now, partner. She was box squatting, I think 365 fucking rapidly.
Yeah. Like,
oh my God, dude. And it was not a high box.
Yeah.
Right. She was like below parallel.
Dude, she cleaned 130.
I remember I turned the corner and saw that. I was like, God damn.
Yeah.
That was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen.
So you take Valerie and she posts on Instagram, you can see her lifts.
Yes.
She's a non-traditional in the sense that like women haven't traditionally grown up seeing like very strong, empowered models, right?
Yes.
Role models.
Yes.
So the fact that she's sharing this and people have access to her.
Yep.
And she's showing them what they could do.
Yes.
And people believe what they can do now is more feasible. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the best part is the greats sharing their training journey goes in line to me with that research because it makes things more accessible and more believable that a normal kid can attain it. Now there's downfalls to that.
Sure.
Because you will have people not recognize when you got all the juice out of you, you're done.
Right.
But it is way lower than the people who have grown and watched those videos of Val or Ryan Krauser, whoever it is, Tom Brady, whoever, and they learn something from the greats. And I think that's the really cool part about what I see on social.
100%. This is not brought to you by anybody, but it's an interesting question. If you weren't a coach, what would you be and why?
If I wasn't a coach, I would be one of two things. I would be a religious studies professor because I was just obsessed with learning how people thought, what they believed in, why they believed in things, the reasons behind it, their interpretations of experiences and their interpretations of nature, how, like, even the geopolitical aspect around it, what the impact of that. What their definition of salvation is. I literally spent a year and a half studying basically the definition of religion versus philosophy, and it's called soteriology and what salvation is for certain people. So I'd either be that or I'd be a farmer. So I've raised pigs and I worked on a turkey farm for years at home. I would have pigs and we've had chickens. We've raised over 150 broiler chickens. So I would do that.
Wow.
I would do something like that.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. Okay. This one, again, no sponsor, but what is a movement, exercise, ideology, philosophy that is overrated to you? And what is one that is underrated?
I've always struggled with, I read all the Bosch stuff and I've done a lot of work with Bosch's books, and his running book I really like, but I still really struggle to believe in like the functional / Bosch era. One, because there's no way to measure it. And I just think it can be, I think it's good when you get to an elite level.
Sure.
And I think it's a way to get like a little bit more out of somebody. But I think they can have its role in warm-ups. I do think it can be good for warm-ups. But outside of that, I think that would be like the overrated aspect, is like the functional aspect around those things. That's not like a great answer, but
I think that's fantastic. That's great.
What was the other one you said?
Underrated.
I think there's a massive underrating of like max lifting. Like, dude, get people that are the age of 12 to 20 in a gym.
Yeah.
And have a max out. Yes. And tell me you're not happy.
Yeah,
like, tell me
energy's electric.
Yeah, it's like,
it's the best.
Yeah, why would we not want to do this more often? And it's like
yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and I think it's like, yeah, now there's a point. I understand there's a point of diminishing returns.
100%, sure.
And it's identifying the point of diminishing returns. But that point's long
you got a long way to go for most people.
Yeah, so it's
I challenge many people to get there.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You're going to be going for a while.
Right, exactly. A long ass time.
For most kids.
Yes. Yeah, so it's like, and I'm not saying put yourself at risk, but push yourself mentally, like push yourself physically. It makes it freaking fun.
It does, dude. Love that. All right, last segment. This is called Unsolicited Solicited Advice. This is brought to you by Eleiko.
Okay.
I have to pinch myself. I can't believe Eleiko sponsors us.
Yo, that's
like,
awesome.
What the fuck? Yo. That's incredible. Magnus, if you made it this far in the show, thank you for taking a shot on us. We're so grateful. There's a link in the show notes. If you purchase any Eleiko equipment, straps, whatever, you name it, use our link. We deeply appreciate it. Unsolicited Solicited Advice. Okay, so you and your business partner, friend, Jason, you guys are going to be hopping on the plane here tomorrow to head back home. Yeah. Okay. Now there's 2 of you, but there's 3 seats. Okay.
Okay.
Jason somehow won the lottery and ended up with the aisle seat. You're in the middle. And there's someone next to you. Now this someone, they're minding their own fucking business.
Yeah.
However, this trip, it was inspiring. And you feel inspired and you feel compelled to share with this person who probably just wants to be left alone.
Yeah.
A piece of unsolicited advice. What would that advice be? And it can be about anything.
They need to do skips 3 days a week. Honestly, I would.
That will make sense if you watch our YouTube videos together, by the way.
Yeah, I would. I would say that though. I think I know that there'd be like the practical side, dude, coming to do collabs with people, you never know, you never meet these people, right? You don't talk to them. I didn't talk to you or anything. And it's like, so there's this unease when you're traveling here, and I'm like, man, why am I going here? Like, I could have been at home with the kids.
100%.
But I think like the cool part again of social and content is like you have to put yourself out on a limb and be like, all right, well, and then I meet you and I like you, you know, and I hope the feeling is mutual.
Indeed, it is.
And
this has been a blast.
Yeah, so I think that's like my thing is like, yo, put yourself at some risk and you'll learn and you'll be uncomfortable. And when you're uncomfortable, you'll experience a lot more. And there's a quote from Timothy Leary. There's an old Tool song. It's like speak for your what is it? Speak for yourself, question. No, it's question authority. Think for yourself, question authority. Think for yourself, question authority. When you get into this situation of feeling uncomfortable, you can grow and learn, and that's when you learn the most. But then it goes back to, as you age, you got to make sure that you're doing your skips and your fucking 100%. Your simple stuff, because for me today when I was doing it, I was like, man, I got to make sure I'm doing this shit more. I don't want to do it because I felt uncomfortable doing it.
For sure.
And it actually like relates back to that. So
incredible.
Yeah, that would be my weird connection.
Dane, dude, where can people find you? First of all, thank you for making the trip down here.
Yeah, this is great.
And being willing to hang out with me and do the show. It's a monumental lift, and we really do appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course. We'd love to have you back again. I just want to go ahead and get that out of the way.
I want to come back and I want to be here when Will Rattel is here.
Listen, Will Rattel, you've been called out.
I wanted to say that. That'd be so.
I'm going to be organizing something at some point in time here in Austin. So I'm having the Coach 'em Up conference, but I want to host like an event where it's just like 20 to 30 coaches. We all get together and it's like a 3-day weekend type thing, and we lift and we eat, and it's just to hang out.
And like share. Yeah, that'd be good.
Create content, shoot the shit, talk shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm working on that.
Okay.
I am. I want to make that happen because that's selfishly, it's what I want. But I think it would be fucking awesome.
If I'm welcome, I'm coming.
You're welcome. Okay. I'm telling you right now. Right. You were here when the birth of this verbally happened. It won't happen unless
Will's
you're there.
Will's a pussy if he doesn't
Will,
come.
you heard him. We love Will Rattel, friend of the show. Where can people connect with you, man?
Yeah, so they can find me at Ghostface D Miller on Instagram, Garage Strength on Instagram. We have a YouTube channel, Garage Strength. We also have a side channel that's all focused on throwing, so discus throwing, shot putting, called Throws University. We have an Instagram, Throws University, and then we have our strength training app called Peak Strength. So you can go in there, you can download it, and you can select the sport or the goal that you want to train for. That's available at peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, or the Apple iOS Store.
Damn, you fucking crushed that, dude. Well done.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. Thank you again for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
And we'll see you next time.
All right. Peace.